Joining me now is Austin Pritchett and Astor Bubbles. They were at the parade when the shooting began. First of all, to both of you, we're very glad that you are safe and able to join us. Austin, let me start with you. What was the first thing that went through your head when you started hearing gunfire?
So it was initially when we were about to exit the rally, it just ended. And so you hear the gunshots and, initially in my head, I was like, oh, fireworks. But then it clicked. Yeah, I was in the military. So then immediately it clicked. I was like, oh, no, that's gunshots. And I was like, oh, gunshots. And I
looked at each other and ran towards.
Yeah, we looked down and you could see the crowd start to run away. And then we saw people start to drop to, we saw people drop to the ground, and it was just a surreal event.
Astor, had you ever thought before today, because there are a lot of shootings in America, have you ever thought, if I'm in a situation like that, this is what I'd do?
No, I don't think anything can really prepare you for what you're going to do in that situation. I can't imagine this ever happening, but we ended up being right there.
And Austin, you mentioned you were in the. Sorry, go ahead, Astor.
Oh, I said our first thought was just to help.
Did you know, Astor, where the shooting was coming from, or was it just a sense of chaos and mayhem?
I don't know if I know exactly where the shots came from, but I could hear the general area and I saw people go down.
And Austin, what was your reaction? You said you'd been in the military. Had you, what kicked in your mind? Had you ever thought something like this might happen, that you would be around gunfire?
So, we go through active shooter training every year and everything like that. So, immediately I recognized it as that. We waited until the scene kind of cleared out, with the crowd running. And my first instinct was to just, after I saw everything was clear, I didn't see the shooter in the vicinity. We just ran down and tried to see if we could help out the victims. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get there and help out before paramedics arrived. So thankfully, the paramedics arrived quickly. So that was a blessing, but it just, your fight or flight kind of just kicks in and you just make your decision.
Astor, tell me what your thinking was about going to the parade, what you were hoping for today, what your thoughts were before the mayhem started.
Well, it was my first Chiefs parade, so I didn't really know what to expect. Obviously not what happened, but I was excited. I mean, everyone was telling me how big of an event it was, and it was supposed to be super fun, and we were having a really good time until that happened. Definitely nothing near what I expected.
And Austin, have you talked to others who were there? What's been the common reaction to others who've been around as you've all processed this?
So the thing that I think really surprised us the most is, so we ended up walking down the street to get away. We saw a crowd of people run back towards us as if there was another shooter. I can't confirm whether that's true or not, but it seemed like there was some kind of mayhem going on up there. So we ended up booking it down an alley. People followed us and it was a dead end.
And it was barricades, pushed over the barricades, and we jumped into the parking garage and we were helping lift people through the parking garage ledges to get out of there.
And then we exit the parking garage and it just seems like everything's normal. No one knows what's going on. People are still kind of walking around in front of the World War I memorial. And we ended up going to the top and there was some news station booths up there along with some food trucks. And we went to one of the news station booths and we were there's an active shooter out here. Does anyone know what's going on?
And no one up there knew what was going on.
Astor, do you sometimes when this happens, people say, how did this happen in our community? Do you feel that way? Or this is the 48th mass shooting in America this year. Shocking, but was it surprising?
I mean, it's shocking and surprising, but at the same time, like, I'm in school for criminology and criminal justice, so I've read about this so much, and your instincts just kicked in. You don't expect it to happen, but it happens, and you just instinctively run and try to help or get to safety.
Austin, very briefly, you were shaking your head.
I mean, it's appalling at this point. You know, at what point do we quit with the, bluntly, thoughts and prayers? Obviously, it's not helping. You know, this is a epidemic in America. 48, we're in February. 48 mass shootings, not even 2 full months of the year is ridiculous. And it just keeps getting worse year in and year out. And, I own guns at home. So, but something has to change.
Like earlier in the parade, somebody passed out, and we were carrying them to try to get them to help, and it was impossible to find anyone even near where we were to get her to help.
Well, we are very glad that you are both safe, and we really appreciate you giving us your explanation of what happened and what it was like to be there. Austin and Astor, thank you so much.
I want to go now to Tiffany Null, who was at the parade. She joins us via Zoom. Tiffany, thank you very much for your time. I don't want to impose upon you in any way. I just want you to say what you remember, how it affected you, and give our audience a sense of what you saw, please.
We were just there having a great time. There were a lot of people, like we were shoulder to shoulder. I was standing on top of a cooler because I couldn't see. And at this point, I had heard, there were so many different noises going on at that point. You didn't really know what was what, but I heard a pop, and then you just heard screaming, and everybody in front of me just started running. And I started yelling, what's going on? What's going on? And a woman yelled, they're shooting. And I jumped down. The lady next to me, we just started running. And my husband, we turned around and we left everything. And then we didn't get but maybe about 10, 15 feet from our stuff before they started saying, they've got him. And so we stopped and we started, are you sure? Before we started to go back, but everybody was still running and rushing, and everybody was just bumping into each other, and it was just very chaotic.
Tiffany, as you were there and as you were preparing to go to the parade, did you have any sense in your mind? Did you have any anxiety or fear that something like this might happen? Meaning, it is something that has happened in other communities in America. Did you go there with any sense of even low-level anxiety that something like this might occur?
I really didn't. I always try to have like situational awareness, but I wasn't afraid. We were down. We got there at like 7:30 in the morning to get a good spot. And we knew that we would be right up there with a lot of people. And I never, even at the point where everything happened, I never felt unsafe. So even going into it, I didn't, go in there, and even until the point happened, I didn't feel unsafe.
And you mentioned that you got about 10 or 15 feet from your belongings when you heard they've got him. Did the crowd around you begin to stabilize and things begin to calm down? And were you able to go back? Did you feel safe enough to go back and retrieve your things?
We did. Once a lot of people started saying they got him instead of just one person, that a lot of people were like, they got him, they got him. Then we felt a little more, a little better about going back and, grabbing our things and not continuing on, like, getting out of there. We got our stuff, and then you had nowhere to go, though. You just had nowhere to go. We couldn't go inside a building. We couldn't go. It was just, everything's outdoors and there's really nowhere to go.
So, Tiffany, how did you make your way out? How did you come up with a plan? And did you get any guidance either from others who were around you, who were in the same boat, or from anyone in a position of authority to lead you on a way out?
No, at that point, they got over to the area. The police and the fire department and everybody got over to the area, and they just started blocking off the area and told us what area to not be in. And they kind of like corralled us all over into a certain area, and told us to not go into this other area. Then there was something else going on, like up the street, that was blocked off. So I don't know if that was related to this event or not related to this event. And so we were kind of stuck in the middle of these two events. And so we had to like ask for permission to go through this barricade to be able to go back to our cars. So it just to go back to our cars was a major feat.
I don't doubt it. Before I let you go, Tiffany, a very simple question. Are you glad you went?
I am. I've lived in Kansas City pretty much majority of my life, and I've rooted for the Chiefs, the whole time, and I've celebrated this, and this is something that I wanted to experience. Is this something that I wanted to happen? Absolutely not. Will it stick with me? Yeah. The looks on people's faces as they were running, the terror on their faces, I won't soon forget. But I'm glad that I went and celebrated our victory with our whole city.
Tiffany Null, thank you so very much for your time. I appreciate it.
We want to bring in now Jacob Michael. He's on the phone. He was there and witnessed the shooting at the parade. He's also a journalist for News Press now. Jacob, tell us what you witnessed.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. From my vantage point, myself nor my colleague actually saw what had happened as far as the shooting goes. What we did see was people start to run away from the scene, which happened near the intersection of what looks to be Pershing and Kessler Road here in downtown Kansas City. People started to run away from that scene towards Union Station. And then as minutes started to pass, people were starting to run out of Union Station. And that's when you started to see armed military personnel and police start to converge into Union Station to potentially address a threat. We still don't know that much information about if there are any casualties in this situation. They've moved media pretty far away from the scene right now. The most heavily taped off area is, again, like we had just mentioned, that near that intersection of Pershing and Kessler. So we're waiting to hear more. But once we hear that, we're expected to hear from the Kansas City Police media team very shortly here. So once we get information, we'll relay it back to you guys.
And Jacob, help us understand the connection or the timeline between the conclusion of the celebratory parade, the last that we checked in live. Patrick Mahomes was up with the Lombardi Trophy, and it was very jubilant. And the next time we check in an hour or so later, there's what seems like a scene of chaos. So give us a sense of the timeline from when the event concluded and what you saw first that made you realize something was wrong. And I'm also just curious about the crush of people and how confusing that moment must have been for everyone.
Yeah, I would say the timeline was probably roughly 10 to 15 minutes as far as once the celebration was over. I mean, there was still a good amount of fans still around, and they were still trying to file out of the area. It's a very heavily crowded area, obviously a very large police scene here for a celebration that was supposed to be for the Kansas City Chiefs winning back-to-back Super Bowls. And then all of a sudden chaos started to break out. We see people running away from certain areas of where fans were, and you could see people were very shaken up. We've seen multiple people leave on stretchers in this situation. So it's a very chaotic scene, and right now it looks as though police are just trying to get more information from witnesses that saw what had happened. But yeah, a very chaotic scene, and on a day that was supposed to be a great celebration.
And Jacob, you're still there, I'm understanding. Am I correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
What is the posture of the police like now? We understand that the people who have largely cleared out of the area were shaken by it, but sometimes you can tell a lot from the demeanor of the law enforcement authorities that you still see there. Can you tell us anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the police and their demeanor, I mean, they're very much on their toes right now. They're still very much spread out across the area, mostly around Union Station right now. They prepared for things like this. You can tell based on the way they were, of course, instructing people to move away from the scene, wanting to clear ways for medical teams to get through. And right now, they seem to be very prepared for a situation like this. Yeah.
And we understand, Jacob, that police have set up a reunification area for children, for parents who have been separated from their kids. And you also were able to record or shoot some footage yourself that we're able to show our viewers. Talk to me about the reunification efforts, if you see any folks getting back together, and what your footage shows us.
I did not see a lot of the reunification aspect of it, as I was still kind of being cleared away from the scene. Right now, we're just kind of huddled together with the rest of the local media here in Kansas City, just waiting to hear more information. But as I alluded to earlier, there was a lot of people shaken up by what they had seen earlier. And what started with, from my vantage point, what sounded like fireworks going off. Apparently, that wasn't what that was. And that's when everyone started to flee away from the scene near that intersection close to Union Station here.
And Jacob, this video that we're seeing that you shot, we see a lot of law enforcement officers running into a building. We see that there are some, looks like Kansas City fans alongside them. Where are they going? What can you tell us about what you witnessed with this?
Yeah, so they're going into Union Station, and from what we know, Union Station is where all this celebration had happened. That's where the Kansas City Chiefs players were, of course, on stage. They were to actually exit, I believe, into Union Station once the celebration was over. So the hope is that we can figure out why so many police and military personnel converged into that area, if there was a potential threat possibly, or if they just wanted to make sure that players and coaches and everyone involved with the team was safe once the celebration was over.
Well, it really speaks to how fluid the situation still is. And I wonder if those people running along with the police dressed in red with Kansas City shirts might be plainclothes police officers or undercover cops, which might also be a part of the posturing today of hundreds. Jacob, we appreciate you spending some time with us. I'm just wondering, throughout all of this, if it shook you in any way and just how unnerving an experience this is for you and other people there today.
Yeah, well, this is a situation in my journalism career, reporting career, I've never had to deal with. And when you go to something like this, your assignment usually is to just, get reactions from fans and kind of set the scene with people just having fun and celebrating, the game of football that brings so many people together, and the fact that the Chiefs have been winning games. All of a sudden, everything kind of takes a left turn and you have to pivot. And for me, it's been a lot to take in. I've never had to deal with something like this before. But, I can only speak for myself. I'm sure there are a lot of people involved that aren't in my position, or the other fellow media members that I'm here with. For those people, I'm sure are very shaken by what has happened. I've seen a lot of reaction from people on social media saying, Kansas City's better than this. People just very disappointed at what has transpired today.
Yeah. Jacob, Michael, thank you so much for bringing us your firsthand account.
We want to jump on the phone now with Jeremiah Wilson. He's a Chiefs fan, traveled from Nebraska to be at the parade with his 7-year-old daughter. Jeremiah, how are you and your daughter doing, and what did you witness today?
We're doing okay. We're just kind of shaken up a little bit, and she's watching Bluey at the moment, just kind of trying to. She's autistic, so she doesn't really understand. She thought it was fireworks going on, but she got really scared when everybody started running. So I had to pick her up as soon as I recognized that they were gunshots, and we just started running with everybody.
We have this image from local police, an aerial shot of the most joyous moment. You had tens of thousands of people outside Union Station there in a crowd of red, a sea of red. Where were you in the crowd? And then where did you go when you realized something was wrong and you picked up your daughter to get out of the way?
So we were kind of up in the middle area. Probably, I think I know what shot you're talking about, but we were kind of off to the left in the middle when we heard the gunshots. And we ran up the hill, and once we started seeing everybody else run, because it was probably equivalent to maybe 4 or 5 city blocks, and you could definitely hear the pop, 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 and it sounded like I don't even know. I haven't been paying attention to the news or nothing, so I don't know what the hell went on, to be honest with you. I just know we got the hell out of there.
Jeremiah, I also have little ones who enjoy Bluey. How will you explain what happened to your daughter?
It makes me, I don't get to do, I'm a single dad, so I've been raising my daughter since she was knee-high grasshopper, since she was about 2 months old, and getting out and doing things, with work and everything else makes it really difficult to be able to have those special moments with her that I'd like to be able to have. And I took her out of school today to go down to this parade and for us to have some time together and create some memories around, just some things that I enjoy and some things that she enjoys. And she made a lot of friends there at the very beginning. For it to end like that was just sad. I mean, I can't even put it into words. I really haven't had time to process a whole lot.
Jeremiah, we so appreciate you jumping on the phone and speaking with us, because so many people had an experience like yours today there in Kansas City. You still sound shaken from what you've been through. I just want to share with our viewers that CBS News can now report that this shooting appears to be criminally related and potentially the result of an argument or dispute that turned violent. So according to our police sources, there's no indication that this is terrorism related. But for a single dad like yourself, who drives, I'm imagining, maybe you flew from Nebraska with your daughter to do something special, like so many people came from the region, just to be a part of this joy today. What's your response to the news that this may have just been an argument turned violent?
Back in my day, we used to pick up our hands and ball them up into fists, and we fought it out that way. And nobody seems to handle anything like they used to back in the day. And in this day and age, everybody wants to pick up weapons and, figure out what the easiest way to hurt somebody the most is. And unfortunately, that's guns. And it's a quick way for little kids to do what they're doing and cause these problems. And it's not even just kids. It's people that are being ignorant, that don't want to fight. They don't want to box it out. They don't want to duke it out. They want to sit there and pick up weapons and cause the most catastrophe that they can without realizing that 20 years from now, when they're sitting in a jail cell, they're going to realize, oh, I messed up. But it's too late. You already did what you did.
Well, it sounds like you did everything you could to keep your daughter safe. How did you get away?
Ran, took cover, ran some more. There were cars parked all over.
Were you carrying your daughter?
Yeah, I was carrying her for the most part. Yeah, she's not a light package.
Well, Jeremiah Wilson.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to make sure we give you time to share your story. It's clear that this is a traumatizing incident. So thank you for sharing with us what you remember, what you saw, and what you did to keep your daughter safe. Thank you for joining us today.
You said the families aren't okay?
No, I'm
Or-
thanking you for sharing with us that you and your daughter are okay, it sounds like.
Is everybody else okay? That's what I want to know.
Unfortunately, Jeremiah, there is a report of one fatality. We don't know anything about who that person was, but we do know that there were somewhere between 10 to 15 people who were injured. And again, we don't know if those people were injured as a result of the shooting or the crush of the crowd afterwards. But you're so kind to care about others. As you were starting to describe the scene as you picked up your daughter and were trying to run with her, and I know 7 years old, it can be heavy. Jeremiah, we just want to thank you for sharing your story.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys, and hopefully everybody else is okay.
Dana Brady and her daughter Madison flew from New Hampshire to Kansas City just for the parade. They were getting ready to leave the rally when the shooting took place. And you are joining me now, and I really appreciate it, ladies. I got a quick look at, I think somebody probably did a quick interview with you and uploaded it to social media. It was just really, it seemed like not too long after the whole incident unfolded. And I could just see you, so the words kind of tumbling out of your mouth, trying to kind of assess what had just happened. You were leaving the parade, and all of a sudden, you see this commotion, and people are running and yelling. When did you realize that you may possibly be in danger?
Well, we thought we heard fireworks, and we paused for just a moment to see if anyone reacted. No one did. So we continued walking forward when suddenly a crush of people came running at us. And someone was screaming, "They're shooting, there's a shooter." And after trying to assess whether or not this was just a scare or whether it was a false alarm, I grabbed my daughter and I put her in front of me in case somebody was coming up behind me. And then we just pushed through the crowd towards Union Station, trying to get to safety.
Madison, I'm not sure how old you are, but, you know, I know when I was in school, we did like fire alarm drills. Seems like you're young enough that maybe you've already sort of talked about active shooter situations, but it's much different to find yourself in the middle of it. You know, what were you feeling in those moments? Do you have the words for it?
I was traumatized.
Yeah.
It was like, I think what made it most scary for me, though, was when I saw the fear on people's faces. I knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
And I took off in the exact same direction that everybody was running because I knew it was the opposite of whatever was happening. And I don't know how dangerous it was, but yeah, it was traumatizing.
Yeah, I imagine, I mean, part of what makes this so uneasy is that you really don't know what's happening in the moment. People are running in different directions. I imagine that you didn't see police officers until you sort of tumbled out of another door. So you really had no idea what was happening and where the danger was coming from.
Yeah, we had no idea. We really had no idea what the situation was. Mm-hmm. We heard fireworks. We thought it was fireworks. Later, we found out that it wasn't fireworks. Yeah. But yeah, we had no idea.
Dana, now that you've had kind of a moment, you know, you've had a day to kind of let it settle in and let it process. What are both of you thinking about this morning?
It is surreal. Because you as a mother, you know, you give it a little bit of a thought nowadays. You know, it crossed my mind earlier yesterday. This is a dangerous situation. You know, this would be an ideal place for some sort of terrorist attack. And it's sad to say that crosses my mind whenever I'm in large crowds. And you honestly don't think you'll encounter it, but it makes me pause because I planned this for my daughter very last minute. We jumped a plane at the last minute to go see a sports team that we love in a city we no longer live in. And now I will hesitate.
Yeah, that is so heartbreaking to hear. I'm a mom too. I'm very close with my daughter. And so I assume that, you know, with this plan, you're like, I'm going to take her out of school. We're going to make a really happy memory that she will carry on until maybe she has children. And now the memory will be forever marred by this.
Yes. And looking at her face yesterday, I have never seen her that terrified. And I hate to say that now we live in a world where I have to weigh the risk and decide whether or not are we going to have a good memory, or is something dangerous going to happen. And after what we experienced yesterday, that there is still joy in being able to be together, but there is a sense of loss because there's someone out there waking up this morning without a mother.
So true. Dana, Madison, Brady, thank you so much, ladies, for joining me this morning. I know it's a tough conversation, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.